Kea wakes up. His eyes are facing the thatched ceiling. He sits down and rubs his eyes. His head hurts. He opens the door of the hut, and as he notices that the plant's leaves are not too curled up and an air breeze hits him, he says, "Today is gonna be a warm day." He walks towards his pile of chopped wood, takes a bundle, and then walks to his pit to revive last night's fire. He penetrates a piece of goat meat with a stick and sets it next to the fire, and he turns it and turns it until it's evenly cooked up. Then he goes to his shepherd tree, takes a couple of fruits, and he reaches for his water container and proceeds to have breakfast. After rinsing his dishes, it's time to give attention to his kettle. So he makes some casts for the goats with broken legs, and puts some tree sap on the ones that have parasites. Then he milks the cows and makes some butter out of it. The tree shadows are completely facing north. It's time for lunch. He hunts a couple of yellow-billed hornbills and roasts them with some butter oil. Then he eats them while contemplating the river flow and the birds sing. The trees are calm and the grass is silent. Kea cures his boredom by carving animal heads for his tam-tam staff, and hours go by as he hums chant melodies, and the air collides with his back. Suddenly, Kea spots a group of 5 people entering his territory. They're all wearing brown shields around their heads, which shadows hide their factions. Their bodies are fully covered in animal skins, the same color as the sky. They're all holding big, white, rectangular leaves. Kea is really confused. He decides to hide behind some bushes and observe what they do. The group of individuals takes some soil out of his crops and puts it in a small basket. Then they write some stuff on their leaves, while contemplating to the distance and talking to themselves. They walk past Kea's woodpile, and then they decide to approach the livestock. Kea gets nervous. 2 individuals stay in the door, and another 3 approach the goats. Kea's heart starts to beat faster. They detain the goat and start examining it. Kea will not let strangers touch his kettle. He runs to his hut, grabs a spear, and then, without any temptation, he charges the individuals. He manages to wound one of them, while the other 2 are fast to react and beat him. Then Kea passes out. Kea wakes up. His eyes are facing the thatched ceiling. He sits down, rubs his eyes, his head hurts. He opens the door, and as he notices that the plant's leaves are not too curled up, and an air breeze hits him, he says, "Today is gonna be a warm day." He walks towards his pile of chopped wood, takes a bundle, and walks to his pit to revive last night's fire. Then what does he do?
He penetrates a piece of goat meat.
Exactly. And then he sets it next to the fire and turns it until it's evenly cooked up. Then he reaches for some fruits of his shepherd tree and reaches for his water container, then proceeds to have breakfast. After rinsing his dishes, it's time to give attention to his crops. He plows a couple of lines, then he puts some laurel seeds in them. He harvests some kales, and he decides which ones he's gonna give to his family members and which ones he's gonna keep. The 3 shadows are completely facing
North.
Okay, it's time for lunch. He hunts a couple of yellow-billed hornbills and roasts them with butter oil and eats them while contemplating the river flow and the birds sing. The trees are calm and the grass is silent. Kea cures his boredom by carving animal heads for his
temple.
Okay. Hours go by as his hums chant melodies and the air collides with his back. Suddenly, the sound of wood cracking makes Kea stand up from a jump. He turns towards his crops and sees an elephant that easily broke through his fence, eating all his crops and leaving a path of destruction behind it. Kea just observes as he knows that he cannot do anything about it. He cannot stop the elephant. Kea feels powerless while watching the elephant feast on the sweet potatoes that he took care of for so many months. Anger begins to cloud his judgment. What once felt like sorrow now feels a need for revenge. Kaya doesn't care anymore if he can kill the elephant or not. He just wants to unleash his emotions into the root of the problem. He goes to his hut, grabs his sharpest spear, and hides behind some thick trees. Once the elephant is completely facing him, he puts all his strength into launching the spear to the elephant's head. To his surprise, it penetrates a lot. He might have killed the elephant. As the elephant starts to stagger, Kaya spots a group of 5 individuals entering his crops. They're all wearing round shields on their heads, with shadows hide their factions. And their bodies are fully covered in animal skins the same color as the sky. They're all holding long black sticks. They divide. 3 of them run towards the erratic elephant, and the other 2 in Kaya's direction, while screaming, "You were supposed to take this to the Kotla!" Kaya gets beat by the 2 individuals, and as he hears extremely loud bangs, he passes out. Kaya wakes up. His eyes are facing the thatched ceiling. He sits down and rubs his eyes. His head hurts. He opens the door of the hut, and as he notices that the plant's leaves are now curled up and the air breeze hits him, what does he realize?
It's gonna be a warm day.
Yes. He walks towards his pile of chopped wood. He takes a bundle and then walks towards his pit to relight last night's fire. Then he penetrates a piece of goat meat with a stick and sets it next to the fire. And then he turns it until it's evenly cooked up. Then, what does he do?
He gets his water bottle and fruit from a shepherd tree.
Exactly. And proceeds to have breakfast. So, after rinsing his dishes, it's time to name a new child and welcome him to the tribe. He goes and prepares some cow milk for the sacred fire ritual. And after naming the child, his father presents him to his future wife, Dikeledi. She is his uncle's daughter. Kia promises her that the wedding will be amazing. The 3 shadows are completely facing north. It's time to have lunch. He hunts a couple of
yellow-billed hornbills.
Yes. And roasts them with butter oil, and he eats them while contemplating the river flow and the birds sing. The trees are calm and the grass is silent. Kaya cures his boredom by carving animal heads for his tam-tam staff. And hours go by as he hums chant melodies and the air collides with his back. Suddenly, Kia spots Dikeledi walking next to the river while holding hands with another man. They are wearing animal skins the same color as the sunsets in winter, with patterns that he had never seen any tribe wear before. They seem pretty happy together. They stop walking, hug each other, and kiss as a strong wind shakes the grass. Kia is really confused. She is his future wife. Why is she with another man? Kia wants an explanation, so he decides to walk up to them. He clenches his... Kia is really confused. Why is she's his future wife? Why is he with another man? Kaya wants an explanation, so he decides to walk up to them. As he clenches his fists, he gets closer. Dikeledi and the man notice Kaya and whisper something to each other, and decide to walk in the opposite direction to Kaya. After noticing this, Kaya also starts to walk faster. The situation gets more tense. Dikeledi, what's going on? Who is he? Leave me alone, Kaya. I am not marrying you. What do you mean? Our parents decided it. Dikeledi stops running and faces Kaya. My parents will not make decisions for me. I am an independent person. That's not how it works, Dikeledi. The guy that is with her steps up. Hey man, leave her alone. I don't even know who you are, Kaya answers. He's my boyfriend. I met him in town. Kaya is perplexed. This is not how things are supposed to work, he thought. Kaya's mind can process what is happening, so he decides to burst into anger and attacks Dikeledi's boyfriend. They exchange some punches, but eventually, Kaya is the last one standing. Satisfied, he returns home as he listens to Dikeledi scream from the distance. This is not the end, Kaya. A couple of days go by, and as Kaya is having a relaxing session of wood carving in his hut, he hears his mother greet someone. He assumes they're having visits, so he decides to go out of his hut to greet them. But the surprise he encounters while opening the door makes a cold sensation run down his spine. The group of people in blueskins are there. He crossed eyes with one of them. The individual points towards him, and the rest of the group starts to run in his direction. Keia starts running towards the dense woodland next to his crops. "Come back here! Stop!" they all scream while chasing Keia. Keia can only think of running. All his energy is focused on his legs. But in his frenzy, he trips and sprains his ankle. Then the men in blue catch up to him, force him to the ground, and tie his hands with a rope. Keia is taken to a tribe settlement's main hut, where the men in blue tie him to a pole. He doesn't understand what's happening. He waits for an hour, then a couple of men walk out of a door, and they sit down in front of Keia. The judgment for Keia Molefe starts. One of them smashes a piece of wood against the table. I will read your criminal history. To start this session, I will start reading your criminal history. You were charged for attempted murder 8 years ago and then served a jail time of 40 years. Then right after that, you were charged for elephant poaching and served a jail time of 3 years. Now, you're being accused for alteration of public order. According to our legislation, an accumulation of 3 charges in a period of 10 years equals life imprisonment. So therefore, Keia Molefe, you have the right to delegate all your belongings to family members. After that, you will be processed and taken into custody. Keia drops to the floor and breaks into tears. Things are changing, and he doesn't understand why. Lost in the world he once knew, Keia accepts his fate.